Okay, we're going to go ahead and get started. We've got a few people coming in late, but I just want to make an introduction. My name is Dan Wayne, and I'm the Vice President of Sales and Business Development for Nonprofit Easy, which is behind the Fundly suite of products. And today we're going to be reviewing Fundly CRM primarily and some of the main functions of Fundly CRM. So whether you're using an outdated CRM or a combination of Excel spreadsheets and maybe an Access database and different things that are maybe not as connected together as you might like. Fundly CRM is really a way to connect everything into one repository so that you're tracking all of your communications, donor information, prospect information, really any type of contact that you track for your nonprofit in one place. So this is a tool that does many things. There's a menu list of items when you click the green button in the upper right-hand corner that will show you the different modules in the system. Now, it would take over an hour to show every module and the way it functions in one sitting. So today I'm going to focus on the primary functions of the CRM and how a nonprofit can use this effectively. So when you log into the system, the first thing you'll see is a dashboard. And the dashboard is really a place that you can go to check out year-over-year giving and donor retention as well as donor acquisition and really how you're trending with metrics year over year. So you'll notice some different graphs and charts that kind of look at a high level. How are we doing with acquiring new donors, for instance? Let's look by certain gift source, by direct mail, and filter this for 2015 and 2014. So we had 3,000 new donors in February of 2014 as opposed to 11 in February 2015. So what's going on at our organization that would reduce the amount of acquisition at such a high level? Those are some of the things that you can take away from these high level dashboard charts. So really these are just reports that are visualized and provided to a user when they first log into the system. You can configure these charts as well to show more or less information or more or less charts. And you'll notice membership, for instance, is one of the charts I have turned off because my nonprofit is not a membership-driven organization. As you scroll up to the top of the screen, you'll also notice that you have your total number of contacts as well as organizational contacts and what your contact limit is in the system. So there's varying prices of Fundly CRM, and each version of the CRM allows for a certain contact threshold. As you look at the top of the screen, you have 5 quick functions, as I like to call them, where you can search the database, add a gift, or a grant, or an individual contact record to the database, see your last 10 records that you've been accessing in the system. Not sure why mine are highlighted there. I must have done something to make that happen, but you also have invoices in the system, and invoices are interesting. Basically, they are anytime a revenue event happens at your nonprofit, so that might be an event registration or a donation or a membership renewal, an invoice is created. So you can see I have 3 different levels of invoices. I have unpaid invoices, paid invoices, and partial invoices. So a partial invoice might be a pledge payment or pledge payment 2 out of 10. So you would see that coming up here in partial invoices. I can select which invoice section or category I want to look at. That's going to take me to my 30,831 invoices that I've got in this system. So you get a list of the contact names, the number of invoices they have, and then you can also receive payment on invoices if there are payments owed to you as the recipient. So I'll go ahead and receive payment here. They don't have any outstanding transactions, so really nothing is owed by this donor. I also can create an invoice directly from this screen, and what this means is, again, any revenue generating type of action is going to be listed here. So you have gift actions, you have event actions, membership actions. Those are the main revenue driving forces in the CRM. So let's go ahead and just type in someone's name here. So I typed in Sarah, and you'll notice that my list of contacts changes based on the letters that I put in here. So let's just go with Sarah Aratesh, or Araste, excuse me. I'm creating an invoice for Sarah. You automatically get an invoice number that's generated, and you select the invoice date, and then select what the invoice is for. Well, I'm on my gift source right here, and what you'll see here is a list of all the different funds that I have set up in Fundly CRM. So I could say general use fund. She's making a gift. It's general fund use. The source of the gift was direct mail, or it was face-to-face, or it was crowdfunding. You set up these sources prior to going live in the system. You can also set up your ask arrays or your gift amounts here. Mine are 25, 35, 50, or 100 or other. I'll say she made a $55 gift. You can also do recurring giving, monthly, quarterly, or yearly. You can do anonymous donations in the system, as well as in memoriam, on behalf of, or in honor of. You can also upload a file to the gift. So if there was some sort of document that was included with the gift, you can do that. And then you can also send later or skip the acknowledgement. So if I select send later, that's basically going to send her the acknowledgement at a later time. You can add gift memos. You can soft credit someone who has a relationship with her, or anyone else for that matter. So I'll just soft credit myself. And then you have miscellaneous details. Is this gift associated to a program? So maybe we have a scope program that's for mentoring children, or maybe there's a capital campaign that this gift was designated towards. It could also be a gift towards an event. And then you can also put in solicited by for whoever has actually solicited this gift from Sarah. Okay, so once you save your gift, it is now in the system. You can see that the amount was $55. The invoice is created for Sarah Araste. I can receipt payment on that gift and either swipe in her payment using a credit card swiper or key it in right here. So I'll say it was a cash gift. It's just one way of adding a gift in Fundly CRM. There's other ways we can get to this point. I just wanted to show you the invoicing structure of the system. So the same is true anytime someone donates online, an invoice is created in the system, or anytime someone signs up for an event and pays you money for an event registration that is conducted online. Anytime someone buys a membership online, an invoice is created. So once I receive payment, and it's thinking about it, I'm going to go ahead and X out just because it's spinning here. I'm in my sample database. Sometimes these things get jammed up, but that's the basics on how to enter a gift from the invoicing section and look at who owes you money as well as who's partially paid invoices. I could also do the same thing from here, where I add a gift in the system, select my contact, and basically go through the same thing. You also have breadcrumbs in the system, which are the last 10 places you've been in the software. So if I was on Dan Wayne's record 4 screens ago, that's going to show up here, and I can very quickly get into Dan Wayne's record by clicking on the View Contact Mr. Dan Wayne. So that'll take me into Dan's record, and let's now talk about the record layout and what we're looking at here. So each individual record or member record or organizational record is going to have a very similar layout, where you have a giving summary on this person based on gift source. So I'm looking at all gift sources here. his first, largest, latest gift, the number of gifts he's made, some additional information. I can then sort this by event giving, perhaps. He's never given at an event. Or by phone, maybe we did a telethon and he made a $9 gift. So you can sort your giving that way. You can also look at a financial summary, which is showing you the total amount that he's paid to your organization. His giving details on the right will open up the gift and show you a little bit more details about that gift, the date of the gift, whether or not an acknowledgement has been sent for that gift, and the fund that was designated for that gift. As we scroll down, we see some other information about communication preferences, what newsletters Dan is signed up for. So across the board, he wants to be contacted by you guys through mail, through phone, through email. And he's also subscribed to some different newsletters that your organization puts out there. Fundly CRM works in blocks for records. So each record will have a block style setup where you can see different information on the prospect. Now, some of this information is data that I've imported in, such as prospect research data. I have some different scores and some different wealth capacity data there. Some of these blocks are out of the box, which means that they're basically standard on each record. So these are some of the standard blocks that you would see. Memberships, not everyone's going to have memberships. So if you don't have memberships, you probably would not want to include this on the person's record. But invoice details, we talked about invoices, show all the different invoices that he has been sent for gifts he's made or for event registrations or memberships or just money he's provided to you and the status of those invoices. We also have a volunteer management program called Fundly Connect, which would show his volunteer data here. So if you were a subscriber to Fundly Connect, you could connect the two programs and you could see what volunteer opportunities as well as how many hours he logged working for those opportunities right here. Finally, you have communication history and event history, and this is really, I like this a lot. This is showing you what communication you've had with the individual. You can see emails that have gone out to him. You can open up those emails to see what actually was sent. So you're invited to a teacher conference on MS with special needs. Here's the invitation to the event. You could also look at, more gift information. So every time he communicates with your organization or you communicate with him, a communication record is set up in this communication history section here. Event history will take you actually to the event module when you click on the hyperlink. So in this case, he signed up for this camping night. He's not yet attended. He's not checked into that event. So there's some different two-way communication between the modules in this system. And if I click on this event, that's going to take me into the event dashboard and the event administration. So as you can see here, we have his attendee information, whether or not he's paid, the registration type, the amount he's paid, etc. I can, from here, email his ticket for the event or print the ticket out and send it to him in the mail. There's a number of different things you can do in the event module. So we'll come back to this, but just understand that the communications portion in a donor record is going to be linked to other pieces of the software. Now, the first thing I tell people is you have to configure your CRM. So it's a big piece of creating an environment that allows you to report in a way that's helpful and in a way that allows you to apply for grants and really just interact with your board in a way that they want to see certain reports and they want to see certain information coming from the fundraising and development team. So you have to configure the database first in order to get that data out of the system. And when I say configurations, what I'm talking about is defining what your contact sources are, defining the types of contacts that you have, the types of emails. It could be work or personal. the genders, the ethnicities. So coming in here and actually developing what your criteria is for each of these types of contact information. So here are the contact sources that I have. I have system, manual entry, Excel, import, MailChimp. These are all configurable by you, and you can add your own contact sources to your system. So I just made something up there and added it just to show you how that works. And now we have a different contact source. You have your configurations now on the left-hand side of the screen, so I could either go back, as you see here, or I could just open up the different blocks of configurations right here on the left-hand panel. If I don't like that view, I can click on configurations, and that's going to take me back to my configurations window. So one of the big things that you have to set up first is your funds. Where is money actually flowing to when someone makes a gift? So coming into the fundraising section of your configurations, you'd want to set up funds. Now you can see I have different types of funds that are set up for my organization. I have a disaster relief fund, I have an event sponsorship fund, I also have a general use fund, and some additional ones. I can add a new fund very easily by clicking the Add New Fund button in the lower right, giving it a code. Providing an end date, so if this fund ends on a certain date, you could select that date, or you could simply make it way in the future. Enable RFA calculation. We'll come to this later, but you'll want to have that turned on to yes. You then have some accounting blocks here. So these are configurations that allow you to associate funds to chart of accounts and account classes. This really is speaking to your QuickBooks or your fund accounting solution, whatever you're using to run your books. And then also, is this associated to a program or a campaign? So this specific fund is associated to our capital campaign. You can leave these blank. You don't have to have a campaign associated to a fund, and you don't have to have a chart of accounts associated to a fund. They're just there so that you can report in a much more identifiable way. You then want to put your details of the fund in the details section, and that takes us into ask amounts. Okay, in our system we have what we call ask arrays, and we have different ask arrays that you can set up. So I've set up probably 10 different ask arrays in my system. And where these come into play is when you're asking people for money through email, online, or through direct mail. So we want to set up a specific ask amount for the new fund. I can add a new ask array here. And what this does is it takes me to a screen where I actually set up how much money I want to ask people for when I'm soliciting for gifts. And what we're doing is, again, telling the system, how do we want to ask people for money? Well, you can ask for money based on individuals' highest gift amount, their last gift amount, their average gift amount. I generally choose average gift amount. You then want to apply rounding. I generally round up because I'm optimistic. Culture would be United States. And then you can make this the default ask that you ask everyone for, or you can leave that blank. I'm then taken into an Ask Details page, and this is really where I need to go in and set up what my ask amounts are going to be. So ask amount 1, this can be a fixed amount, and we'll make it $10. What this is saying is the first string of our ask is 10 bucks. The second string of our ask is going to be another fixed amount. We'll make it $25. It's 100% tax deductible. That's fine. Let's make one more or two more asks, and this time let's make it a calculated ask. This is a little bit more advanced. It's saying, okay, let's look at the average gift amount that a donor has made and multiply that by 1.5. We're going to round up to the nearest $5. And there's going to be a minimum ask of $25. Maximum ask of $500. And it's 100% tax deductible. So we have two fixed asks and one calculated ask. Okay, what this will say is, all right, let's say Dan Wayne, whose record we looked at earlier, has an average gift amount of $25. So he would see when he's requested to make a gift, an ask of 10, an ask of 25, and then his average gift amount, which is $25 times 1.5, rounded up to the nearest 5. So it'd be a $37.50 ask, rounded up to the nearest 5. It would be a $40 ask for him. This would be different for every donor in the system. It'll calculate for every donor based on their average gift amount times 1.5 for ask number 3. So that's the basis of your ask array details. You can create different ask arrays for different funds. Let's go back to configurations for a moment. So we'll take a look at one more configuration in the system, and then we'll move on to something more fun. Let's go ahead and look at email notifications. So these are notifications that you can configure in the system to reach people anytime something has happened. So if I look at my gift notifications, actually let's do one thing. Let's look at all. This will show us all of our notifications that occur in the system. As you can see here, we have a number of different notifications that go out to donors and prospects. So if you're a member-driven organization, a membership expired email notification will go out to someone when their membership expires. So if I edit this, it'll show me what this notification looks like. Dear member name, your membership has expired on this date. Here's your current status. It's just reminding the person that they need to renew their membership. So you can see there's a number of different notifications in the system. Anytime a pledge fails, so if someone has a pledge in the system that they're using their credit card to pay you by, again, hello Dan, your pledge has been failed using the credit card on file. Here are the pledge details, and then it'll show you the pledge detail names. You can add more to this. Please update your credit card. And then you could also have this come from anyone at your organization. So I could put in my email address, I could put in someone else's email address, and then I can also add placeholder fields, so contact name or the pledge name or the schedule amount. These are just fields that I can add into the system. So these are predefined fields that pull from the system. So you have different email notifications in the software. In addition to email notifications, I did want to show you one other thing that has to do with what we call custom data sets. Okay, so if I click back in configurations, a custom data set is basically a list of information or a number of data sets that you create to track organizational specific information on your donors and prospects. So if I click on custom data sets, I can create whatever I want to track on my prospects and donors. You can see I have a number of different custom data sets that I've created over the years. I'm going to go ahead and create a new one now, and we'll call this demo set. We're going to apply this to individuals. So I'm just naming my data set here, and when you save that, you're telling the system, who do you want this to apply to? Do you want it to apply it to organizations? So maybe you have some data that you want to track on your organizations that you work with, whether they be corporate entities or grantors or whoever. But in this case, I'm applying it to individuals. Now, what types of individuals are going to get this data? Donors, volunteers, and we'll say members. So these are the types of people that can have this demo data set information on their records. So we save this information. I always hit save just a few times to make sure that everything saves okay. And then I click add new field to start creating the fields that roll up to demo set. So we'll name the first field, who is your favorite movie star? Now this is not a great example of a question you would ask someone necessarily, but it's going to give you an idea of how to use the data set and how to create a new field that rolls up to the demo data set. So this is going to be a drop-down field. You can make these fields required or not, and you can have it display on the contact screen like we saw for Dan Wayne. He had those different blocks of information on his record. Hitting display on contact view screen will make sure it shows up there on the record. So I just went through the process of adding a drop-down data set for who is your favorite movie star. And I'm adding my options here and saving. Okay, so now I have a field called who is your favorite movie star, and I could add one more field, and I'll call this income level. This is going to be a number field. So this was a drop-down field for who's your favorite movie star. Let's do a number field for income level. So I now have two fields that roll up to the demo set data set. When I open up a record now, so let's go back to Dan. I'll now have the ability to fill out information related to who his favorite movie star is and his income level. So in the record, I can hit edit contact. And if you'll remember, we added that data set to the donor type. So I'll click on his donor information. And you can see all the different custom data sets I've added over time, but there's demo data set. I'll say his income level is 20,000. Okay, so now when I go back and look at his record, when I view his contact record, I have the ability to put that information on the window in his record. So just like you see here for major gift potential and prospect research and reservation details and demographic data for United Way, we can do that for our demo set. Okay, so we have the ability to create or add additional elements, as we call them. And you can select what elements you want, move it to this section, and actually move around where you want that information to display on his contact record. Now I have demo set listed for who your favorite movie star is and his income level. So that's how data sets work. It allows you to track information on people that's of interest to your organization. A veterans organization I worked with wanted to track the medals that their veterans had won, for instance. Let's go look at the search capabilities in the database. And let's say I want to find all my individuals in my CRM that fit a certain criteria. I want to look at everyone who has a favorite movie star in, and I'd be able to type in George Clooney here. I could add additional information and say I want to look at everyone who has that favorite movie star and lives in the city of Atlanta, or all females over the age of 55 who live in a certain city who have given a gift amount over a certain figure. So you can get as in-depth as you want and as granular as you want with these queries. I'm going to take this one out just because I don't have that many people that live or that have George Clooney on their record. All right, so in our example, we're going to look at people who live in Ohio, and I want to find people in Ohio who have given a gift amount less than $25. And I want to look at people who have given a gift amount less than $25, live in Ohio, who are female. Okay, so this will search the database for that information. I was showing you the custom data sets because that is something you can also query off of if you have information that's custom to your nonprofit. So think about the information you need to track on your donors and think about the information that you want to track and start tracking it. Start asking those questions of people on registration forms. Start asking those questions of people on event signups, or maybe you have a volunteer program. That's all data collection that can be very helpful in helping you query on records. So now I have my query returned to me. I have 2121 records, and you can see these are all females that live in Ohio. I probably should have said all active females who live in Ohio who have given less than $25. I can very quickly export this list to CSV file. And now I have a very nice list of donor records along with all their information, name, city, state, what their communication preferences are, what their average gift amount is to your organization, what their first gift amount is to your organization, the total number of gifts they've made. Remember, we queried off of people who have given less than $25, so that's still going to pull people who have given 0 that are female in Ohio. And you have other information such as the categories they fall in. What's the amount group that they fall in for giving? What's the amount group code that they fall in? So these, again, are configurations you set up in the system prior. These are recency, frequency, and size groups that you can set up that are custom to your organization. So I have an FRE1 group code, which means this person's a one-time giver or a 0-time giver, whereas I have a FRE2 code, which means something different. So these are all things that are very helpful in helping you segment and query and build lists of prospects. Now, I can do other things in the system as well, such as take action on this entire group. So if I check off that entire group, that's going to check off 2121 records, and I can then do certain things to these records. So I can send them an email. I can export these records to a MailChimp segment. We have an integration with MailChimp that allows you to send records to a segment. So I have some segments in MailChimp that I've created called ATLians and Mr. Ferguson and Raven. I can create a new segment that takes about 20 to 30 minutes to do, or I can add these records to an additional or an already created segment in MailChimp. The beauty of our integration with MailChimp is that it's a two-way street. So if you send those prospects and those donors an email through MailChimp, it's also going to store that record or that email send that you sent through MailChimp in their CRM record. So again, by connecting MailChimp to Fundly CRM, you have a two-way street of sending records to MailChimp as people opt out of things or as people unsubscribe or as stuff bounces. It'll also update that in the CRM. It'll also tell the CRM in the individual's communication record that, hey, they've been sent something through MailChimp, and it'll show you what was sent. So it's a nice feature that if you are using an external e-marketing provider, you can integrate with MailChimp, and as I mentioned, we'll send information into the communication history that you see here. So you would actually see that email go out through MailChimp right in here. That brings us to newsletters and communication templates. So as I mentioned, we do integrate with MailChimp, but if, for instance, you didn't want to use MailChimp, you have the ability to use our own templates that we've created in our system that are very robust. So you can come into the newsletter templates, for instance, and create your own template that looks very professional and looks very, very nice. So we have different templates that we've allotted in the system, and you can select whatever template you want to use and edit that template to fit your organization's branding, colors, and message. So just like in MailChimp, we've really kind of copied them with our setup here. You have the ability to add blocks into your newsletters, define the style and background color of different blocks. Telling you about Fundly CRM and then some dummy data, uploading your logo. So all of that's available directly from within our system. You then can edit a template and save that template. So you'd want to name this like Newsletter General 1, Newsletter General 2, or whatever you want to call it. Save it, and you then have a template that you can select from your template selection here. So if I'm sending a newsletter, let's say an update to our supporters is the name of the newsletter. Dan Wayne is the sender. cannot spell today. You can associate a newsletter to a campaign. You can also associate a category to the newsletter. So I'll just say this is a flyer. And then you select your template. You can add an attachment. So if I want to add pictures of an event or pictures of a volunteer day or something along those lines, I can add that attachment here and hit proceed. And then I need to select my recipients. So just like we did in the query, which was this button here on the top, I now need to select who my recipients are. So this is automatically going to go to anyone who has an email address with a preference yes to email. So they have to be designated, or they need to have said they want to receive email. They have to be an active contact, and they have to be subscribed to this category. And then you go and build out what you want your recipient list to look like. So this time I'm going to say, all right, this is a major gift donor newsletter. So I'm going to say anyone who's ever given greater than 10 grand. And I don't have any recipients. Look at that. So let's say 5 grand. Keep in mind, they have to fit this criteria. So maybe I don't have anyone in the flyer category. Let me go back to my newsletter setup and say capital. So again, you can say anyone who likes George Clooney, who makes $20,000 or greater. This should yield more results. What I did is I changed the category of the newsletter to the capital campaign category as opposed to the flyer category. I just didn't have any subscribers to that category, which is why I didn't yield any results. So this should search the database and find all donors who have given greater than $10,000 and include them in this newsletter. So they will receive that template that you created along with any messaging you put in there or any attachments you put in there. You can also add other recipients down here towards the bottom of the screen. So we'll let this cook just for another minute and then refresh. It shouldn't take this long to pull our list. Doesn't seem to like my query, so I'm going to reload the page. We'll try it one more time. Again, sometimes in my demo database, things get a little awry. Let's try it again. You can see some of the other fields that we have here, like people who have attended a certain event, or people who have volunteered to a certain opportunity, or who have volunteered a certain amount of hours, or I want to look at people with a lifetime gift or a most common gift of a certain amount. Let's say donor category this time. In new donors. So we're looking at all new donors this time. Let's see if this will pull it up. And we have one recipient. And it's Andrea Barnes. Okay, so we have one recipient who is labeled a new donor as her donor category. I could add this to, or I could add another recipient to this. I'm going to send it to myself. You also have the ability to test or send a test email to yourself prior to sending the newsletter. And now I'm going to also send a test email to dan.wayne@fundly.com. So I just sent myself a test. And then you can choose if you want to send this on a certain date or if you want to send it right now. So I'll send it right now. And my newsletter has been sent, or it's being processed to be sent. Now, anytime we've sent a newsletter in the past, we can get metrics on that newsletter. So I'm just going to open up a random one I have and see this was 8 recipients received this. Here's how many people clicked. Here's how many bounced. Here's how many unsubscribed. So you get a lot of the email metrics that you would see through MailChimp or Constant Contact directly in our system. That brings us to Pages. Pages are public-facing internet sites that are connected to your CRM. So they're almost like micro websites that you create for donations, for events, and for membership. You also configure the look and the feel of these pages from this first option. So this is my page. I have another organization's logo in there. So let me edit this and put in a new one. Okay. So there's full picture editing within our pages portion. You can also configure. We have 2 templates for how you want your pages to look. So I'm on this template, but I can switch to a different template if I so desire. So it's really just the layout of where the pictures are and what your giving levels look like. And if I click on the Donate Now portion here, this is going to show me my donation pages, which I've configured. Okay, so we have the ability to create very robust looking, nice looking donation forms. A lot of people who are using Network for Good or PayPal are taken to some really ugly sites. Using this, what you have is a connected page. So if someone does decide to make a $100 gift to your organization, they fill out their information, or a recurring gift. You can do monthly giving through here as well. You capture that information in your CRM. So if a new donor comes online, makes a gift, it's going to open up a record in the CRM for you with that gift information. So that's a really nice feature. You also have events and membership pages, which we're going to skip over today just for the sake of time. But you remember we set up that ask array earlier on. So in our configurations, we set up an ask array for a fund, and we made that ask array, I believe it was $10 and $25 and something else. So if I come into my ask arrays configuration, you notice I have one called Disaster Relief Ask Array, and it's the default ask. So let's go ahead and edit that and take a look. So this is going to be the default ask that I have in my database that's set up. That looks a little high to me, so what I would probably do is edit that and change the default ask to something else. So I'd probably change it to something that's a little bit more, gives you more options, right? So I can change it to this as the default ask or something else. So there's some interconnectedness that you need to understand in the system as to how information is portrayed through our pages and also through some of the different areas in the system. This is the link for your page. So if you copy that link and open that up in a different browser, this is what my page looks like. So you can change what you want this to look like. So obviously I have some funky numbers in there. I could make that a little bit more streamlined and make it 10, 25, 50, 100, 150, etc. I also have a campaign goal listed here. So a little thermometer that shows you how much you've achieved in terms of your goal. And as I mentioned, we'll skip over events, but I'd have the ability to come in here and look at my events for the month. So I'm a donor coming to your site. Maybe I want to look at March. What are the events that you have coming up in March? So there's a teacher's conference, there's a gala. You select your event and sign up for how many tickets you want to that event. You also have a login, so I can log in using a username and password. Each donor can have their own profile. So that Dan, as you see, has a profile, and he can see what transactions he's made to your nonprofit, as well as do things like print event tickets, see his giving details. See if he has a recurring donation with your nonprofit. So this is the donor logging into the system, into your page. And as I mentioned, he can do things that are pretty cool and pretty nice, like printing an event ticket if he's attending a golf outing. Here's my ticket. So that's our pages in a nutshell. There's some other options here which we're not going to cover today, but can the donor select a sub-program when making a donation, so you know where those funds are being allocated to that the person is making. The last thing we'll take a look at is sending acknowledgments, and then we'll wrap up. If anyone has any questions, feel free to chat in the GoToMeeting, and I will make sure to answer the question, or at least try to get it answered today. So in communication, send acknowledgments. That's going to take you into your acknowledgments, which you can search for the week, let's say. So from February 1st to February 9th, let's go ahead and filter our donations. And we have two people who have made donations, Sarah Alexinian and Dan Wayne. So what I want to do is create a donation acknowledgement for these donors, and I can generate a donation acknowledgement directly from this list. So Sarah, for instance, maybe doesn't have an email address in the system. You can see that whatever's highlighted is how they will receive their acknowledgement. So if I don't want to send him direct mail, I can take off the direct mail. But due to their communication preferences, if I look back at Dan Wayne, he had phone, email, direct mail all checked off as yes. So this person does not have a verified email address, so I cannot send her an e-acknowledgement. I can only send her a mail acknowledgement. We also break it out by email and mail and all. So from here you can PDF the acknowledgements. Dear Dan, thank you for your gift of $55 to us. Your support is deeply appreciated. I need to go in and actually configure this a little bit better. But you'd see your logo here. You'd have other configurable options when you go to set up your acknowledgement templates. So for my email acknowledgements, I put in my sender name, my sender email, whatever that might be, and then again I can preview the acknowledgement that's going out to him. and hit send. So there's one acknowledgement in queue to be sent to Dan. You could do multiple emails at once, obviously, and then you can also download the snail mail. So if I want to download a PDF of what's going to these two donors, I can do that. So this will show two acknowledgments going out to Dan and to Sarah. So she was getting a different, the reason you see two different acknowledgments here are they gave to two different funds, and I had different acknowledgement templates set up for those different funds. So here you see I built this one out a little bit more, and it actually has her first name and the gift amount, whereas this one I didn't really play around with too much. So that's why you see kind of a better looking acknowledgement here. But you can certainly, in the system, create your own acknowledgements and make them look really pretty. So download the PDF, hit done printing, download the envelope that you want this to go into. So you can have different templates for envelopes as well, where you can create your own envelopes. So if you're sending direct mail acknowledgements, you can actually print your envelopes directly from the tool, and this will create the envelopes that you need to print. Let's see. So client name, client address, contact name. So client is your organization. Contact is the donor. There's not a whole lot to the layout here. Obviously, it's just an envelope. So you can print off those envelopes, download the envelopes, send them to your printer, and do all of your acknowledgments in a much more streamlined way. All right, so here's my organization name. Here's the person who's getting it, and I could print out, my weekly donors or my weekly donation acknowledgments right from here, stuff the envelopes using the acknowledgement we set up in the system, and hit done printing to inform the system that I've sent those out. There's no more mail to download. Okay, there's also grant management in the system. There's membership management, reporting, which is we have different sessions on reporting that are dedicated to reporting and how we report. But really, we have a lot of pre-baked out-of-the-box reports that are pretty nice. If you want to attend one of our sessions, you're more than welcome to go on to fundlycrm.com and sign up for a reporting session. But just to show you some of the out-of-the-box reports, you can see we break it out by a number of different ways. Grant reports, donation reports. So if you want to see all of your approved grants and how much money is coming in through those grants, you can do that here. If you want to look at strictly donation reports, obviously looking at donation by funds and by campaigns and by gift sources, these are all out of the box that are really nice reports for a board member or for a development person to bring to a meeting and look really good doing so. So reporting, again, we have scheduled on our calendar, I think, twice for this month. But hopefully that was a good overview of how Fundly CRM works and how you create records, how you search the database, create pages in the system for fundraising, as well as donor profiles, and then send acknowledgements and integrate with some outside tools such as MailChimp. The last thing I'll mention is we have QuickBooks Online integration. So if you want to integrate this software with your accounting package, you do have to have the QuickBooks Online version. As you can see here in the upper right, I have a sync with QuickBooks. It hasn't been enrolled yet, but I can get started and actually sync donation data from CRM with QuickBooks so that all of those invoices that we saw will actually send over to QuickBooks and be appropriated the right way. Thanks very much for your time, and please feel free to email me at dan.wain@fundly.com. It's DAN.WAIN at fundly.com if you have any questions. Thanks very much for your time.